Our second speaker is Suresh Rajan, the former President of the Ethnic Communities Council of Western Australia.
I begin by acknowledging the prior ownership of the land on which we gathered this afternoon by the Noongar people. I thank the Noongar people for allowing us to use that land and also for their generous welcome today. We journey with our Aboriginal brothers and sisters in their quest for reconciliation, and we pay our respects to their elders, both past and present. I want to touch on two particular aspects of life in Western Australia that go to the very heart of the human rights debates that are occurring all over the state and all over the country. Firstly, let me talk about the refugee and the asylum seeker issues. Now, the most touching aspect of the whole issue around refugees and asylum seekers, particularly around the Leonora Detention Centre, was when the local Aboriginal elders came out and said that they welcome the refugees to their land. It was at that point that it really dawned on me that the only, and I emphasize only, people who can say that they want or don't want refugees in this country are the Aboriginal people. It is not for me as a migrant to this country to make that decision. How is it possible for me, who has no legitimate ownership of this land, invite people to come and seek our assistance to make a new life? And to me, Northam has the same issues. If the Aboriginal people of that region were to say that the camp was not to be located on their land, then that would be the decision that must be adhered to. However, I'm also confident that the Aboriginal people who, with a strong sense of community, family, and the compassion for people, would welcome these new migrants. After all, they've been doing that for about 200 years already. Secondly, I just want to talk briefly about racism in this state. The Ethnic Communities Council was until recently the only ethnic advocacy agency funded by government to support and advocate on behalf of that 28% of the population that was born overseas. That funding ceased on the 30th of June. At that point, the called communities, the culturally and linguistically diverse communities, ceased to have a voice for their concern. Now, the decision to do that was one that was taken by John Castrilli, the Minister for Multicultural Interests. The process that he subjected the ECC, the Ethnic Communities Council, to at that time was clearly racist and not something he administered to any other agency he funds, such as the Australia Day Council. ECC conducted a study commenced in 2001 to look at the new and emerging communities, particularly the Middle Eastern and African communities, perceptions as to whether they felt they'd been discriminated against. We didn't wish to examine whether or not that discrimination had occurred, but whether they perceived they were discriminated against. And remarkably, 70% of them felt that they had been discriminated either often or sometimes. That's a remarkably high percentage, and various other studies have validated that figure. It's probably fair to say that the African communities are the new Aboriginals as far as the wider mainstream communities is concerned. Australians aren't coping well with the issues of visible difference, of the dark skin and the hijab that have become objects of hate. Now, having just talked a little bit about the type of racism that exists, we want to drill down to see who that racism is being perpetrated against. Now, there can be no doubt that the Aboriginal people is the group that has been the most vulnerable and the ones who've had the most human rights violations perpetrated on them right through the country. But the second group that's been, in more recent times, that's had a huge number of human rights violations against them has been the Muslim community. Despite this fact that the Muslim community has been vilified from post-September 11th considerably, we are unable to get any government of any persuasion to introduce religious vilification legislation. Therefore, you can abuse me for being a Hindu, and let me tell you that there are many people in the community who probably would like to do so, and you wouldn't be subject to police prosecution. However, abuse me for being an Indian, and you could be in trouble. That doesn't make any sense of any kind. It just does not make sense. But the racial vilification provisions of the Criminal Code provide for racial vilification and no religious vilification. However, again, the Jews and the Sikhs are not subjected to this because of a High Court ruling in London that has stated that Sikhs and Jews are sufficiently different to be classified as races. That is a ruling that makes absolutely no sense, but it's one our courts have to abide with. So until the government comes to its senses and does something about it, we will continue to see our Muslim brothers and sisters being vilified. I don't intend to take up any more of your time, as there's some very eminent speakers awaiting their turn to speak. I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say. Thank you for your time, and can I say, keep the fires burning, for there's so much to be done and even more to be gained from fighting the good fight as you're doing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh. Our next speaker is the chair of the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders Women's Alliance, Dot Henry. She's a lady that's spoken at the Permanent Forum of the United Nations and at our Commonwealth Parliament to them. Thank you, Dot.
Thanks, Jerry. I'd like to acknowledge my elders, past and present, and you know what, just standing here listening to these people and what they have to say, it's amazing. There's just so much out there, and hey, we don't have nowhere near enough people that have come on board to help us in our plight. We see the disadvantage through health, housing, education and the justice system. I've seen the incarceration of our people. I've seen how it's impacted on our family. I've actually worked in that area, and I tell you what, it's not good. Those people come out of prison, out of the juvenile detention centres, and there's no support. But you know, we've got a long way to go. Some things have changed. Our people, some of our people have taken a lead role in getting change in their community, and a lot more of that needs to happen. But at the moment, what I want to do is talk about my role as the chairperson of the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Women's Alliance. I was fortunate enough to do the diplomacy training where we had 36 people from 36 countries who were passionate about human rights and how they wish to advocate. They opened up Parliament for the first time in 18 years of this training being run, and we were allowed to work with the ministers to put across our views. And you know what? I asked them, why was the Racial Discrimination Act suspended? Mr. Ruddock put his hand up, said, I will answer that. He said, the Racial Discrimination Act, he said, it didn't operate equality. We had to put special measures in place to help our disadvantaged Indigenous brothers and sisters. It's about time these people sat up and thought that, yes, we can do it. They need to sit down with us and find out what resources we've got and what we want and what we can do in our communities for change. Not one size fits all. Yes. But I'm quite excited about the National Aboriginal Women's Alliance. We've just had our the launch by Kate Ellis in Canberra on Wednesday for 100 years of celebration of International Women's Day. And do you know what? Aboriginal women are leaders. They will continue to be leaders, not just for the past 100 years, this year and for 100 years to come. We've got a long way to go, and we're going to get there. But you know, I would like you to come on board. We really need as much strength and as much people, hands-on people, that will come aboard and help us in our plight. You stand up there because you don't have your piece of paper, you get a non-Indigenous person stand up there with a piece of paper, they're the experts. To me, experts are unknown drips under pressure. But we need to make change, and the only way we're going to do it is in consultation with our communities so that we can move forward. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dot. Our next speaker is the chair of the Deaths in Custody Watch Committee, WA, Maryanne Makai.
If it's all right with everyone, I'm just going to keep my glasses on. That sun's too bright. Oh, far out. Sorry, I'm just a bit puffed. I've been running around handing out flyers. We've got, at Deaths in Custody, we just have no support at all. We just believe that tasers shouldn't be used at all. Bingo. They shouldn't be used. I mean, if they can ban them on animals, right, why aren't they banning them, you know, for people? You know what I mean? If it's good enough not to use cattle prods on animals, why is it good enough to use it on us? Right, as people. That is ridiculous. And you know what? I am so glad you spoke up. You know what? Hang on, I just want to shake. everybody needs to do. You know, we can't let these police get away with what they do to our people. You know, to everybody. It is wrong. And I am sick and tired of our people not having the evidence to come forward and lay charges. It's wrong. You know what? We got to have a CCC, you know, a big commission and investigation by the CCC, you know, just for the monarchs to be charged for something. You know, and it is wrong. It is wrong. We should have protection. It doesn't matter what we do, whether we commit a crime, whether we just, you know, don't do anything. We deserve the same protection as anybody. As anybody. Well, and I don't care. I'm sick of it. And as far as Commissioner O'Callaghan goes, you know, we got a police commissioner there who is too smart to be in the police force. You know what I mean? Like, what's he doing wasting his time there? You know, he's got no balls for the police force. We need to use him in policy or something. Not for as our police commissioner, all right? Now, at deaths in custody, we want a royal commission, a national royal commission into every single weapon that police officers use, nationwide. And we're calling on every single government around Australia to step up and help us to push for this royal commission, because police don't need weapons. They don't need weapons. If they're trained properly in restraint, what they got to use weapons on us for? You know what I mean? They should be trained. You know, if that's right. If they were trained properly, they would not need any weapons at all. Because if we can stand there on the street and smash, you know, and restrain each other, why can't trained people do that? You know, that's what they need. Come to the Aboriginal community and we'll learn you. We'll teach you how to restrain. All right? Because I tell you now, if we can do it, you can do it. And we'll teach us. And that's one thing you need to understand, is you are not going to get away with it anymore. Not going to get away with it anymore. And if there is anyone out there that wants to, you know, receive help to lay charges, you get in contact with Deaths in Custody, and I tell you now, we will put you onto everybody, so that you can get your complaint looked into and investigated, because this is wrong. And we need to start logging a database of people, you know, who want to make complaints against police. You need to come forward, because I tell you now, they can't push us down, and nothing is going to be swept under the carpet anymore, because too many people are watching. And I can tell you now, right, they are. Boys in blue, I tell you now, boys in blue going to be running, because a lot of complaints going to be coming forward. And I tell you now, then Australia, the local people, the state people and the national, international people will realise what a corrupt and racist police force we have here in Western Australia. And I don't care what anyone says. I stand behind my word, and if anyone want to debate me on that, you can come up here and you can step up here, or you can give me a call and I'll be right where you want to debate. Because I tell you now, I don't have a law degree, I don't have any university degree, I don't have no education except for year 12 and going to uni for 18 months for my law degree. But I tell you now, I will stand there and debate with any one of them educated people in government or in the police force, and I bet you any money I'll be able to beat them, because my life experiences gives me more knowledge than they will ever have, and I don't care what they get taught. It'll never be as much as what we have from life experiences. But anyway, at Deaths in Custody, we have a total list of demands. We have a fact sheet going around. We just want the tasers to be banned, straight out, banned. And you know what? Out of the 10 recommendations, 7 were rejected from the CCC. You know, the police, West Australian police just rejected 7, straight out, rejected them. So what they need to do is they need to go and yarn with our Attorney General, Christian Porter, because last year they put together the National Indigenous Law and Justice Framework, 2009 to 2015. So I'd like our Attorney General, Christian Porter, to stand up and show us what actions does he have in place to implement that framework in Australia and with our West Australian Police Force. And you give it out, you tell the public. I ask you right now, Porter and Barnett, tell us what you're doing to implement that framework. I tell you right now, because you need to be doing something, because we're going to be watching you. But I think my time is up. Grab a fact sheet. Deaths in Custody, no support at all for tasers. My brother, you are a horse for speaking up, Mudich. And I tell you now, all of you's got to follow his lead, because they can't do this anymore. I tell you now, Deaths in Custody will support you all the way, right? Peace. Fire.
Thank you, Maryanne. Thanks, Maryanne.